My Hero Academia is very popular, and it's most known for its intense fights, entertaining and complex characters, and amazing setting. Considering its manga is just drawing to a close, and its 7th season is also about to finish, I wanted to discuss what I consider to be the pillar that fuels the quality of its best moments, and is a fundamental part of the themes the story is trying to tell, its world building, and how it creates a complex and nuanced take on a superhero society, mirroring our own world with its problematics and unfairness. To better understand this world, I think that the best way of looking at it is as a dystopia, with the facade of a utopia. Sure, the world is presented to us as unfair at the start. I mean, the protagonist and the phrase that starts the series, "all men are not created equal," are the living example of this. Deku is left behind purely for the fact of not possessing a quirk, a harsh truth that he has come to accept until he is given powers by All Might. And this fact, just like it does for Deku himself, makes us forget for a moment about the unfairness that was presented to us before. We get lost in the incredible people, the cool powers they possess, the heroism exhibited by all the pro-heroes. It's as if we get to see the world in the eyes of those privileged enough to possess a quirk, a good quirk, and for a moment it seems like everything is perfect, like hard work can make anything happen. But as I said, that's the facade the dystopia is trying to uphold. The quirkless. People with a problematic quirk. The blindness of the heroes and the corruption within the system. The incredible thing about the world of My Hero is that it takes a setting with superpowers and it makes it realistic, and through the eyes of the protagonist, even makes us forget for a moment about all the darkness lurking within. Of course, this anime isn't the first of its kind to make such a premise. Marvel, which is currently the most popular when it comes to superheroes, also tried to implement such ideas in its story, like the clash between freedom versus control for the Avengers in Civil War. But as Pop Culture Detective explains very well in his video, Marvel's Defenders of the Status Quo, the interesting ideas regarding the society of this world always tend to be discarded in favor of endings that don't end up mattering in the long run, or end up dismissed due to the evil acts committed by the antagonists that invalidate their ideology. As such, the heroes end up becoming defenders of the status quo, something which is barely addressed by the plot of these movies and feels more like the way things came to be, rather than an actual element incorporated in its premise and purpose in order to elevate the story. And that's precisely what My Hero does differently. Yeah, here the heroes are, as well, the defenders of the status quo. They were institutionalized, and the simple essence of heroism, to serve and to help in order to do good, was changed in favor of a much more grounded idea. Help with superpowers and you'll gain money and fame. Uphold the status quo and defeat the villains without addressing the corruption within the system, and you'll be a hero. The thing is, the corruption of the superheroes and the way they ignore the real problems of their world, upholding the current system, is a vital factor of the ongoing plot of My Hero and the story it's trying to tell. But that's precisely what I find so fascinating. You have people like All Might, who embody all the virtues and values of pure heroism, but you also have heroes like Man Lady, who don't hide very well the fact that they're in it just for the fame and the money. Or Indra himself, an abusive bastard who committed more sins than many of the villains in the series in order to become the number one. But something interesting about this is that despite having all these kinds of heroes and people, they still manage to have way more depth than just serving as a device for the message the story is trying to tell. No, rather, this anime shows us that every light has a shadow, and vice versa. because the ultimate hero called All Might never did anything for the villains, other than beating them up. He kept the peace, but he never addressed the roots. And in the end, all that his fighting left him with was an empty shell, which desperately tried to help everyone but ultimately failed at fixing anything, like patching a broken pipe rather than repairing it. And the supposed greedy man lady, despite being a hero only for money and fame, also showed true heroism in the Camino arc by putting herself in harm's way when there was no benefit in her doing so. This mini character arc, by the way, reminds me of Uraraka, who has the goal to become rich through heroism, but after her time in UA, learns to genuinely enjoy the good that comes with being a hero. Even the abusive Endeavor looks for redemption and proves that the spirit of heroism can be born even within the ugliest of souls. All of these ideas are ways the story and the world of My Hero prove to us that the hero system has its heart in the right place. Thus, our protagonists really are on the good side. But that doesn't mean that the system doesn't have many flaws that have yet to be addressed. After all, let's not forget that in the end, the hero job itself is in great part just for show. Something that's there so people have something to admire, to live up to, but not something that's working towards true optimization regarding the fight against crime. If that was the case, the roots of why villains keep being born will be addressed, or people such as Shinzo, who have an excellent quirk, will get a place to showcase their ability, instead of being quickly dismissed for not fitting in with what people think a hero should be. Of course, the theme of legacy woven throughout the story poses the idea that it's up to the new generation to make things right, and no one exemplifies this better than Deku himself, who slowly steps away from the heroism of his idol All Might and starts realizing what it truly means to save someone. That's just the beginning. Another advantage that MHA has over any other superhero story is the fact that, 80% of humans have quirks? This allows for the exploration of many ideas that would otherwise be irrelevant in a story where only a handful of people have inhuman strength. The story shows us the way in which the quirks of each hero and each character shape their identity. Bakugo's superiority and inferiority complex due to his strong quirk, Todoroki's trauma with his fire powers. Even Midoriya's newly acquired powers reflect his lack of self-care and immaturity, and his subsequent power-ups not only serve as development for his powers, but for his character as well. Because he can better control his powers, he's not as careless, and using his legs separates him from the way he was copying All Might. All these tiny details are what make this series so spectacular, and the characters who showcase these ideas best are the villains. What I find so fascinating about them is how every single one has something to say in regards to the flaws in My Hero's world. Our first real villain, Stain, goes into the possibility of some heroes being nothing more than slaves for money and power, with the true essence of heroism being lost, except for a few that embody it, such as Deku or All Might. And while he's certainly right to some degree, characters like Mount Lady or Uraraka show us that just because your starting motives aren't noble, it doesn't mean that you can't grow into loving the job and feeling the spirit of heroism through saving people and protecting others. Still, not every hero will grow into quite a good example, and it's good that such a vital aspect of this society was addressed so early into the story. Another excellent case is Overhaul, who sees Quirks as a plague that must be exterminated, but, more importantly, as the cause for the downfall of the Yakuza. It's a radical example, but it's true. Quirks overshadowed the need for a lot of things, whether it is the Yakuza losing power, or jobs that can now be realized easily by a specific quirk. Something similar to what happened with the Industrial Revolution and people losing their jobs due to being replaced with machines. It's so clever, and the list doesn't end there. Gentle is a fault to Deku in the way he wasn't made to be a hero due to his powers, and Deku himself knows that he could have ended up like him if he never got All Might's quirk. This showcases how just having a quirk isn't enough to become a hero. I mean, ask Ice Guy. But even more importantly, how those with great powers have everything set to live in the utopia MHA offers, as long as they put enough effort, while ignoring, or perhaps without even noticing it, the darkness lurking within the unfairness of the system. Whether it's people with quirks, the quirkless, or the League of Villains. The idea of privilege versus unfairness is constantly seen throughout the anime. The ones who reflect it best are the main villains of the series. Each and every single one of them proves why the world of My Hero is so misguided, and the fact that they have every right to be mad and try to destroy everything is precisely why they make for such compelling antagonists. A good starting point for discussion is Toga, who is a perfect showcase of the concepts of how quirks can mold your personality and how they can be harmful for your life if you don't fit in with the status quo and what's considered normal by society. For reference, see La Brava or Shinso. But let's not deviate. Toga's quirk makes her obsessed with blood, which is pretty taboo. As such, she was forced to repress this power, even though it was a vital part of who she was. The consequences were not pretty. The system failed to help Toga find a way to understand and control her quirk in a healthy way, something which can be said for Twice and Shigaraki as well. Although his case is a bit more complex, but we'll get to that later on. The point is that Toga was a girl that could have flourished into something beautiful, but in the end, she ended up being this crazy psychopath just because no one made an effort to understand her. Not her parents, not the people who counseled her, and not the world in which she was born. Davi's case is also quite tragic, revolving about the way high expectations can shape someone and how failing to reach them can end up making you burn out. Something which can be seen in Todoroki and Bakugo's characters as well. An already existing problem in our world that MHA's world only exacerbated with the idealization of quirks. And of course, how can we talk about My Hero's systemic oppression without going into its main antagonist and a big part of the reason why I'm making this video, Shigaraki himself. He has a very sad story. First, his father showcases how the superhero Joe has a dark side. Death. Nana Shimura died, fighting to protect others in the line of duty, while forgetting the most important people in the world, her family. Her kid was left all alone, and with hatred towards her mother for prioritizing her dangerous job over her life, and especially him. This hatred transformed into abuse, and that abuse was what Shigaraki received. After manifesting his work in the most horrible way possible, Shigaraki was left all alone, with no one to guide him and his destructive power, and people were given the chance to help, but no one did. No hero came to the rescue. When a simple action as small as lending a helping hand is needed, but no one helps, what does that say about the society that we're creating? It says a lot about the world. How the only one that was willing to reach out his hand to him was the most evil man in the story. Heroes are good and villains are bad. That's what it seems like at first hand. And while I'm not trying to excuse the League of Villains' actions throughout the series, I get it. Shigaraki had nothing to live for. He was an empty shell, raised by All For One to become the perfect villain. Can you blame him for enjoying the distraction when it's all he's ever known? If that's the only way in which he can truly be free, in this world that's trying to repress him and stop him in every single possible way? Maybe Eri, whose powers and backstory were of a similar vein to his, without Deku there to save her, a hero who is willing to risk it all to make up for abandoning her for the first time, would have ended up the same way. I could be here for hours talking about the way the heroes showcase the themes and messages of the story as well. I mean, Uraraka's pursuit for money, Iida's blind revenge which goes completely against everything Hero stands for, Deku's unfair life and subsequent privilege, Bakugo's superiority created from his quirk and the way not living up to it ends up breaking him apart little by little, Todoroki's abuse in order to become a good hero. But this video is long enough as it is. If I see that it gets a lot of traction, I may do individual videos on each of them, including the villains, not just analyzing who they are, but also what they contribute to the overall plot of MHA that was discussed in this video. But as it stands, I'd say that my conclusion is that the world of My Hero Academia needs to change. Not necessarily by eliminating quirks, but by having the heroes, aka those in power, realize and solve the issues that keep creating villains who wreak havoc across the world. Reworking the hero system, putting an emphasis on the practicality to save lives instead of the show or destructive power one can amass. Creating programs of quirk counseling that teach you how to control your quirk. Understanding yourself better in the process without repressing that which doesn't fit in or is taboo. And enforcing a true heroic spirit which doesn't look for money or fame, with its only objective being to help others and be kind. And you certainly don't need a superpower to do that. All that being said, I think the reason why I find My Hero Academia's worldbuilding to be so good is that it reflects a real world. It looks like a meritocracy at first glance, but in the end, those in power are the ones who write the rules, under a mask of benevolence and change, while those who don't fit in or try to make real change are overshadowed and neglected. You can't be whatever you want, and you have to submit and accept that for most of us, instead of doing what we love to do or what we will be best at, we have to take the role the world will allow us to fill. We have to repress our darkest, yet perhaps truest desires in order to fit in with what's considered normal and right, losing our identity in the process, with no one there to guide us. Perhaps one day a hero who embodies true heroism goes beyond will save us, not through brute force, but through kindness. And heck, perhaps the whole message of My Hero Academia is that we have to be the hero. If we don't lend a helping hand, why would we expect anyone to do the same for us? With all of that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe, as collecting the footage and making a coherent script took an insane amount of effort, especially for a beginner like me. If you like this video, please stay tuned because I have a lot of content prepared in the future, whether it's My Hero or other anime ranging from Attack on Titan to Fruits Basket. And of course I want to talk about a lot of games as well. So yeah, if you like the video, activate the bell and I'll see you around.